Anyone who's been watching my videos has probably gathered by now that it really sticks in my craw when people think that science is on the side of their ridiculous superstitions. Now you listen to me. Science is my bitch, and you are science's bitch. Via the transitive property of mathematics, you are my bitch. Now let's watch this video. The Earth is believed to be near the center of the universe by who? Religious people? Why the hell would you listen to them? Well, there's an insipid, meaningless tautology if I ever heard one. All of the objects and operations of the universe are themselves manifestations of the physical laws of the universe. So what you just said has wasted a portion of my life. So I'm wasting a portion of everybody else's life explaining how you have just wasted a portion of my life. You know, seeing things like this makes me really curious about how a theist's quote-unquote mind quote-unquote works. You read something about the shapes of galaxies and it says that the stars outward in the disk should be traveling more slowly than the ones towards the center, and this differential rotation should eventually smear the entire galaxy into a uniform disk and not into spirals. And so you immediately think, galaxies can't exist. Therefore, God spoke it all into existence 6,000 years ago, la-da-da-da-da, and you don't even bother reading the rest of the paragraphs that we can observe in other galaxies that this differential rotation doesn't exist, and that galaxies spin like a giant solid pinwheel, and this is why we believe that dark matter exists, and this dark matter that would be necessary to prevent this differential rotation would also have effects such as gravitational lensing, and these gravitational lensing effects occur, but you didn't bother reading that far, did ya? Most comets don't pass around the sun. There's a large number of icy objects in highly eccentric and distant orbits called the Kuiper belt, and then really far away there's a roughly three-dimensional shell of comets. We call it the Oort cloud, and the vast majority of these objects never come anywhere close to the sun. But occasionally the gravitational perturbations from other icy objects or distant stars or the galactic center nudges one of these objects and it falls inward, passes close to the sun, and we go, wow, look at that, it's a comet. But no, most of them do not pass near the sun. And while we're at it, losing external material, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the comets lose internal material. Yeah, and there's also a lot of planets and moons that aren't geologically active. And a lot of the moons that are geologically active, like the ones around Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, they're geologically active because their interiors are constantly churned around by the massive tidal force of their parent planet. Planets like Earth remain geologically active because A, they're really enormous and it takes a long time for that heat to dissipate, and B, in their core are a bunch of heavy radioactive elements that, because of their greater density, have fallen down into the core and are decaying, producing, you guessed it, heat. I'm sorry, why does a beginning imply God? Is it because the Bible says there's a beginning, and it also says there's a God? Well, here's the thing, if you say enough shit, eventually some of it's gonna be true. Okay, A, it's believed by you that God made the universe. This video is called Evidence for the Existence of God, so I don't really care about your tedious beliefs. But let's just forget about that for a second. And then go to, then God must be in God made the universe. Then God must be in control of everything and able to cause anything to occur. Well, your logic is clearly flawed here. Let's say that I built some sort of elaborate machine like in the game Mousetrap. I could build this mousetrap, turn the crank that snaps the plank that boots the marble right down the chute, then watch it roll and hit the pole and knock the ball in the rub-a-dub-tub and flips the man into the pan. The trap is set. Here comes the net. Mousetrap by guarantee. Never mind. But my point is, I could build this thing, but I wouldn't be in control of each and every aspect. If you've ever played the game Mousetrap, you'll know that the ball hitting the pole will not actually knock the ball into the rub-a-dub-tub. Even though you build it, you're not in control of that shit. No, sir. Gee, the planet we inhabit has conditions that make it inhabitable. What an eerie coincidence. I now believe in Jesus. Bring out the wine and crackers. Oh, really? Oh, fucking really? Well, life is made up of more or less carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Now, the hydrogen and oxygen is especially important because we need water, but how common are these elements? Oh yeah, the first most abundant element in the entire universe is hydrogen. Then there's helium, but let's forget about that. What's the next one? Oh yeah, oxygen. So water is just as common as dirt. And we can see what elements are in the universe because we can measure the absorption spectrum that comes from distant stars. So we know for an absolute, undeniable, goddamn fact that the elements we require for life are all over the galaxy at the very least, and probably the universe at large. So, once again, you are talking out of your theist ass. So Jupiter, the giant ball of gas, bears the marks of asteroid and meteoroid collisions. Next you're going to say some stupid shit like the moon somehow prevents the Earth from being pulled out of its orbit. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh really, geologists are relying more on a catastrophic flood type of paradigm. I would ask what geologist, but I know that it's no actual geologist. By the way, the priest at your church is not a geologist, and what he was doing was not drilling for core samples in your strata. At this point I cut out a section of the video because it's all about Noah's flood and new transitional forms, or how sedimentary rock was somehow deposited all in a single flood, and just a whole bunch of stupid shit that I feel has been addressed much more thoroughly by others in other videos, and honestly I just don't want to deal with it. Like I said, Wildwood Claire is a really good channel to go to if you want to understand the geology of the whole thing, although I think even a third grader could understand why a flood is retarded. Earth's magnetic field should have depleted by now. Interesting. And you base this on what? Your understanding of how the magnetic field is generated in the first place? Oh yeah, you probably have no goddamn clue. And I don't want to get into too many details here, blast you with information, but it's caused by convection plumes of liquid iron around a solid iron core. moving charges create magnetic fields, and remember when I was saying there's radioactive elements in the cores of planets, or specifically our planet, heating the magma down there? Yeah, well, that heat causes the heated material to rise through the liquid, blah blah blah, creating a magnetic field. But you know, you might say, well, you're not being very detailed with your explanation, man. Well, you're not gonna get it anyway, obviously. You could have looked this shit up yourself and figured it out, but instead you decided to take a page out of the book of every single religious person ever, and instead just listened to some other religious person and assumed what they said was true, and then went ahead and repeated it yourself as if it was true. Yeah. Rather than address the often debunked information shit, I thought I should point out that those cells aren't alive. Okay, now you're just stringing words together randomly. Wow, you should tell all those dummy scientists with their advanced degrees and hours of laboratory experience. Because, to state the obvious, humans are primates and descended from primates. This has been another installment of How Theists Don't Know Shit from Shinola About Science and Shouldn't Try to Use It. Thank you and good night.